Welcome to the MOOCs course Mechanical Unit Operations. The title of this particular lecture is Particle Shape and Density. We have been studying the different distinctive properties of particulate solids which can have a kind of influence. If you properly not monitored, they may have the strong effect on a kind of product distribution. Sometimes they also be needed to be controlled in order to have a kind of a proper requirement at the reactant level itself. What are those properties that we are seeing so far? We have enlisted these kind of properties. These properties are the size, shape, density, hardness, adsorption, etc. these kind of things. So, out of which we have also seen that the size, shape and density are the most important one. Under the size of the particles, we have seen different types of representations of the irregular particles, because when you take a bulk material and then crush it as per requirement of the process, then what will happen? You will get irregular particles, and then irregular particles may not be having a kind of a similar degree of irregularity as well. So, how to define the size of those particles is a kind of big question. When this number of particles are in some kind of millions of particles are involved in a kind of process, then this becomes even a difficult task. So, then what we have to do? We have to make a kind of equivalent size representation. So, for irregular particles, what we had a kind of equivalent property of sphere, and then accordingly equivalent diameter for those irregular particles we have seen, like sphere, volume, equivalent diameter that we have seen. One of the methods of representing the size of irregular particles is that sphere, volume, equivalent diameter. What we have done here, we have measured volume of the particle, irregular shape, whatever irregular shape particle is there, we measure its volume, and then we equated that volume to a kind of a spherical particle of size dp whose volume is same as the particle diameter. That is, whatever the spherical particle that is having a volume equal to the volume of the particle, right. So, the size of that spherical particle is dp. Then from here, this whatever the Vp that is the volume of the particle, you calculate that, you equate to the volume of a spherical particle of size dp. Dp is the nominal size or equivalent diameter of the particle. So, then from here, whatever the dp that you get, that is the nominal diameter. This diameter is nothing but sphere volume equivalent diameter. Likewise, we also had a kind of a sphere surface equivalent diameter, where we measured the surface area of the particle and then equated that one to a spherical particle whose surface area is same as the kind of surface area of the irregular particle. From there, whatever the dp that we get, that is again the equivalent diameter or nominal diameter, but that is sphere surface equivalent diameter. Likewise, we can have a sphere surface to volume ratio equivalent diameter, that also we have seen. So, here what we can do? We can take a irregular particle, measure the surface of that irregular particle, measure the volume of that irregular particle, then you take the ratio, the surface area of the particle divided by the volume of that particle, irregular particles. This ratio you equate to the surface to the volume ratio of a spherical particle whose surface to volume ratio is same as the surface to volume ratio of the irregular particle. From there, whatever the dp that you get sphere surface volume or sphere surface to volume ratio equivalent diameter. Likewise, we also had sphere drag equivalent diameter, similarly sphere falling velocity equivalent diameter. Like this, several type of equivalent diameters that we have seen in order to represent the size of the particle, right. So, we have also seen the statistical measurements of the irregular particles, like Faraday's dimension and then Martin's dimensions, etc. Those statistical measurements have also been seen. These statistical measurements in general obtained by the microscopic, but that is not a kind of practically applicable method in this industrial applications as process especially. Why? Because we have relatively infinite number, that is the thousands of lakhs of particles in general are there in the mixture. So, each and every particle you cannot take and then measure in the microscopic in order to have the analysis. So, that is the reason, though it is a reliable kind of one, it is not going to be helpful. Further, we have also seen kind of, if you have a kind of irregular particle like this, so its sphere volume equivalent diameter, if you measure and then pictorially represent, it may be of size like this. Similarly, this for the same size particle, if you measure the sphere's surface equivalent diameter, then it may be of this size. Then similarly, if you measure the surface to volume ratio equivalent diameter for this particle, it may be having like this. So, what we see here, see for the same particle different equivalent representations are having a kind of a different sizes. This size is different from this size is different from this size. So, all three different equivalent representation of the size of the particles are different from each other. So, which one should be taken, that is again a big question. Which equivalent diameter should be taken, that is again questionable thing, important question one to answer. So, however, this can be answered by the experience of the process engineer that has been involved in a kind of process, or it can be based on a kind of applications kind of thing one can do. Let us say, if you have a kind of cyclone separators, then sphere-Stokes equivalent diameter would be sufficiently reliable one. If you have a kind of irregular particles like something like flow through packed beds etc., then sphere surface to volume ratio equivalent diameter would be more reliable. So, based on the applications also, one has to have a kind of intuitive feeling which kind of equivalent diameter one has to use. And then these equivalent diameter, in the previous class we have seen only for a kind of single particles only, we have not seen for a kind of mixture. Those things we are going to see in a kind of subsequent lectures when we do the screen analysis. So, in addition to the size of the particle, what are the other properties that we are going to see? We are going to see the shape of the particle, density of the particle. So, these two things we are going to take up in this particular lecture in detail now. So, but there are additional properties that can also be important depending on the applications, like surface characteristics, hardness, adsorption etc. So, we are going to see only these three things. So, this we have already seen. In the particular lecture today, we are going to discuss shape and density of a given irregular particle. So, particle shape for a given irregular particle, that is when you take a bulk material and you crush it into the smaller fraction. So, you get a kind of a small particle size, but they are irregular shape, they are not in a kind of regular shape, they are not in a kind of spherical shape, they are not in a kind of cylindrical shape, they are not in a kind of completely needle like shape. Even if they are mostly like needle like shape, they are not perfectly needle like shape. Even if they are kind of a rounded shape, they are not perfectly spherical shape. So, how to represent these irregular particles? So, that is what we are going to see for a kind of individual particles. In this lecture, what we are going to see? We are going to see the particle shape, how to represent the shape of the particle for a given individual particle. Later on, we are going to do in the subsequent lecture for a mixture of particle also, we can define a kind of what is the sphericity kind of thing, especially for a kind of non-uniform mixtures, right. So, the particle shape with a reference can be defined. What we have for irregular particles, we can define the shape by a kind of sphericity. The sphericity, as we are by the word, it relates how much is the kind of spherical nature of that particle, how closely can we represent in terms of the sphericity, spherical nature of that particle. Let us say you have a kind of a spherical particle, so then you can say that its sphericity is a kind of 1, that we are going to see. If you have a kind of a small cylindrical particle like this, so then what is the equivalent spherical shape of this particle, that is also we are going to see. If you have a kind of small cubical particle like this, then what is its equivalent kind of sphericity, those things we are going to see now in this particular lecture. So, it basically represents like how much closely we can say, how much close it to the spherical shape reference material spherical shape that it is, right. So, let us say like you have a irregular particle like this, if you have a kind of irregular needle particle like this. So, like that if you have a kind of different shape, so then how much it is spherical, that we can calculate by this sphericity, and then that is what we are going to do here particularly in this lecture. So, sphericity is a kind of a representation how much spherical it is, how closely related to the spherical shape, that is what with reference to the spherical shape that we are going to see here. So, it is defined as the surface area of a sphere of same volume as particle divided by the surface area of particle per volume of the particle. So, what that is what sphericity, like surface area of a spherical particles of size is dp square, and then its volume is pi dp cube by 6, right, and then divided by the surface area of the particle, irregular particle, let us say Sp, and then volume of the irregular particle, let us say Vp. So, this you do ratio, then you will get the sphericity, that is sphericity is defined as the surface area of a sphere of same volume as particle divided by the surface area of the particle per volume of the particle. So, that is when you put in a kind of equation. So, now this you are going to get 6 by dp divided by Sp by Vp. So, pi s is equals to 6 by dp divided by Sp by Vp. So, that is 6 Vp divided by dp Sp. That means for a given irregular particle, if you know what is the volume of the particle, what is the surface area of the particle, and then what is the nominal diameter of the particle, especially sphere volume equivalent diameter, the dp, then you can know the sphericity for that given particle easily, right. So, here what we have dp is the nominal or equivalent diameter of the particle, and then Sp is the surface area of the particle, and then Vp is the volume of the particle, right. So, now you may be wondering if this sphericity, is it going to be dependent on the size of the particle, that is the question. Let us say you have a kind of small cube size, let us say all the sizes are same, this size is A, same is this also, and then same is this also. Now, you take another cubical particle, right, but of the different size. So, B, 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 and then where A is not equals to B, and they are not in a kind of any proportional to each other, and A is not equals to B, and then let us say B is much higher compared to the A. So, then is the sphericity for this smaller cubical particle and then sphericity for this larger cubical particle are not going to be different, they are going to be same. That we are going, we can prove, we can take the different cubes and then we can calculate the sphericities, and then you can find like this. And then same is true for any kind of shape of the particle. If you take short cylinders, if you take hemispheres, if you take rashing rings, or if you take any irregular particles, you maintain this shape of the irregular particle same, but the size you change. You change the size of those irregular particles, and then you calculate sphericity, you are going to get the same sphericity. So, the sphericity is dependent only on the shape of the particle, it is not going to depend on the size of the particle, right, whether it is regular non-spherical particle or irregular arbitrary shape particle, whatever it is, if the shape is same but size is changing, the sphericity is not going to change. The sphericity is only dependent on the shape of the particle, but it does not depend on the size of the particle. It is not going to change with the size of the particle. And then obviously, the sphericity we have defined with reference to the surface to the volume ratio of a spherical particle of size dp. So, then for sphericity for a spherical particle is always going to be 1, it is always going to be 1 for spherical particle, right. Now, we have in general, we do not have a kind of cubical shapes or small cylinders kind of things or rashing rings always, we maybe have a mixture of particles, or when you take a bulk material and you crush it, then you may be having a different types of shapes of the particles depending on the bulk material is homogeneous or not. If it is a heterogeneous or a composite kind of material, or it is consisting of different materials A, B, C. So, depending on the molecular structure of A component, B component and C component, that is consisting in the bulk material, the shapes of those crushed material, after crushing, the shape of the particles may also be varying, because A may be in general crushed into a kind of a cubical shape, or B may be always giving more or less like a plate-like kind of things. Let us say B is if mica, so it is always going to crushed into kind of a platelet shape. If it is PBS galena, it is more or less going to give a kind of cubical shape. So, when you crush, if your bulk material is consisting these different types of material, it is not a kind of pure one component, then obviously when crushed material is also going to have a kind of different shapes, right. So, then it is going to be very difficult to measure the sphericity, but there are a few methods that theoretically also we can find out, also we can find out them from the experimental background also, experimental methodology also, that we can see. In general, many crushed materials, they have the sphericity between 0.6 to 0.8, but in the crushing there is a kind of abrasion while they are transporting from one process to the other process, there is a kind of sufficient of a degree of abrasion is taking place. In general, because of the abrasion, particles may become more or less kind of rounded shape. So, for those kind of particles, it can be the sphericity can be as high as 0.95. And then some cubes and short cylinders have more surface area than spheres of same volume, that is we are going to see, we are going to prove it again in subsequent slides. So, that is, let us say if you have a short cylinder with L is equals to D, or if you have a cubes with L is equals to D, if the surface area, then the volume of the particle, whether the short cylinder you take is same as the volume of a spherical particle of size dp, then surface area of a cylindrical particle is going to be higher. That is, let us say you have a short cylindrical particle and then spherical particle, right. Now, in these two cases, if let us say Vp cylindrical particle and then we have Vp spherical particle, if these volumes are same, then whatever this for these short cylinders are there, Sp is going to be more than the Sp cylindrical particle is going to be more than the Sp spherical particle. Why? Because of the nominal diameter. If you calculate nominal diameter, if you calculate for this cylindrical particle, that is going to be more than the its original diameter of the cylindrical particle, right. So, that nominal diameter that we have already calculated in the previous lecture, we are going to do once again. So, because of this reason, if you take a short cylinder, if you take a spherical particle, if the volume of these two particles are equal to each other, then the surface area of the cylindrical particle is going to be more compared to the surface area of the spherical particle of same volume as a kind of cylindrical particle. Same is true for the cubes also, but it is not necessary for all cases. Let us say if you have a hemisphere case, if you have a hemisphere particle, if you have a spherical particle, and then volume of these two particles are equal to each other, then the surface area of the hemisphere is going to be less than the surface area of the spherical particle, right. That depends on the equivalent diameter, how much it is, okay. That is what we are going to see. So, let us say if you have a short cylinder with same volume as a sphere of diameter dp, then nominal size is going to be 0.874 dp, that is d is going to be 1 by 0.874 dp. So, that is the reason 1 by 0.874 is going to be more than 1, that is the reason it is going to be having higher value, right. Let us say the surface area of a short cylinder is 3 pi d square by 2. Now, d is nothing but 0.874 dp, that if you substitute here, it is going to be 3.6 dp square, whereas the surface area of the spherical particle is going to be pi dp square. So, that is 3.14 dp square. So, that is the reason now here the surface area of a spherical particle is smaller compared to the surface area of the shorter cylinder, provided the volume of these two particles are equal to each other. Okay. Same the way, the similar way we can check for the cubes also. So, equivalent diameter, the dP that we are going to use here in the sphericity calculations, in general we can use the diameter of a sphere of equal volume or sphere volume equivalent diameter, that is what we are going to use here in dP calculation. And then for fine granular material, it is difficult to determine exactly what is the volume, what is the surface area of the particle, right. For granular material of very small size, it is going to be very difficult. If you have a kind of particles irregular shape, but size is a kind of, or volume is some mm cubes or some centimeter cubes, it is quite possible that you can measure an SP, a VP, and then you can get the sphericity. But the particles are in some micron size, like size of the particle is something like 50 microns or 20 microns. So, then it is going to be very difficult for you to measure the VP and SP, that is the surface and surface of the particle and volume of the particle is going to be very difficult measurement. That is not possible even for a slightly irregular particle. If the particle is irregular in larger dimensions, larger degree, then it is going to be very difficult. For that, how to measure this volume and surface area of particles? So, there we have a kind of screen analysis, or we can do by some kind of a microscopic examination, right. And then there are some kind of experimental measures methods also available, from where we can measure the surface area. Surface area, like you take a packed bed and then you pack with a kind of irregular material for which you wanted to measure the surface area, and do the experiments. You measure the pressure drop, and then these pressure drop values along with the size of the particle, etc., and then fluid properties, etc., you substitute in a kind of Kozinski-Harman equation, and then from there you can find out the surface area of that particular unstructured material packing, right. This is also we are going to do in a subsequent lecture, probably in module 6. This is what we are going to do this one, but this particular lecture we are going to take only for the individual particles. So, let us not worry about them. For non-porous particles, from adsorption measurements one can find out the sphericity as well. So, what we do? We see some example materials, like and then what is the sphericity of those materials in general. Let us say you have the Ottawa sand, so the sphericity can be as much as 0.95. So, more or less a kind of they are having a spherical shape. And then there are some kind of rounded sand, the sphericity is almost 0.83. Whereas the coal dust, in general, coal dust is very fine size, very smaller size kind of particles, finer particles, that is the finest sizes that is possible, not the crust entire thing. The coal dust whatever we have, for the coal dust the sphericity is as much as 0.73, flint sand it is 0.65, crushed glasses in general used kind of packed material, some applications in some chemical applications where there is no reactions are there. So, those crushed glasses have in general 0.65, and then mica flakes have a 0.28. So, mica flakes are in general mica material, when you crushed, when you crushed them into the smaller things, smaller sizes, you may get approximately kind of almost this plate like material. So, since the shape of the plate like material is not very much spherical, not at all close to the spherical shape. So, that is the reason the sphericity for this mica flakes kind of material, it is very small. Now, we are going to do sphericity calculations. So, how to measure a sphericity of a given particle, that is what we are going to do now. So, sphericity is going to be 1 for a kind of spherical particle, that is what we have seen, because the sphericity is defined with respect to the surface to volume of a spherical particle basis. So, that is the reason it is going to be 1, it is going to be 1. So, sphericity is always going to be less than or equals to 1 only, always, it is not going to be greater than 1 for any case. So, it is going to be 1 for a perfectly spherical shape particle, and then as the deviation from the spherical shape increases, the sphericity decreases. So, since spherical shape we know that its sphericity is equals to 1. So, we start with that one and then we go to the different shapes of the particles. Let us say spherical particle of diameter d we have. So, what is the volume of the particle? It is pi d cube by 6, and then volume of this particle, and then surface area of this spherical particle is pi d square, right. Then equivalent or nominal diameter dp you have to find out. So, how you do? You equate the volume of this particle to the volume of a spherical particle whose volume is same as the volume of the particle, right. Let us say spherical particle is having the size dp, right. So, pi dp cube by 6 is the volume of that particle, and then this volume of the spherical particle is equals to the volume of the particle. So, from here whatever this dp you are going to get, that is nothing but the nominal or sphere volume equivalent diameter. So, equivalent diameter dp calculation. So, volume of the particle should be equated to the volume of a spherical particle whose volume is same as a kind of volume of the irregular whatever the particle that we have considered. Here since both of them are spherical particles, so pi d cube by 6 is equals to pi dp cube by 6. This is the reference, this is the material that for which we are calculating, this is a kind of other nominal diameter. So, now the sphericity we have the 6 Vp by dp Sp. So, here in this Vp is pi d cube by 6, dp is now nothing but d, and then Sp is nothing but pi d square. When you substitute all these things, you are going to get 1. So, this is how we have to do. So, this reference, this is we have done reference to cross check whether are we doing correctly or not. Now, what we do? We take a short cylinders whose size L is equals to d. We can say the cylinder is shorter one if its diameter and then length are equal to each other in general, or diameter or length closely equal to each other, then we can say that a kind of a short cylinder. Let us take a short cylinder case, L is equals to d, then volume of this particle is going to be this pi r square multiplied by L. So, if you write in terms of d, you get pi d cube by 4, and then surface of area of the particle is nothing but the surface area, that 2 pi r L plus pi r square, 2 pi r L plus pi r square one circle, and then plus pi r square the other circle, that is 2 pi r square plus 2 pi r L, that is 2 pi r into L plus r. When you convert in terms of d by using r is equals to d by 2 and L is equals to d, you get 3 pi d square by 2. Now, the nominal diameter of the particle we have to find out. So, the volume of the particle, now we have to equate it to a volume of a spherical particle whose size is dp, and then that volume of spherical particle is equals to the volume of the particle. Then we get equivalent diameter dp is equals to 1.1447 d, that is pi d cube by 4 is equals to pi dp cube by 6. So, from here dp you get 1.1447 d, right. So, this is the reason. Now, what we have here, we have for a short cylinder the equivalent diameter is more than the diameter of the cylinder itself. That is the reason, if the surface, if the volume of a short cylinder and then volume of a spherical particle are equal to each other, the surface area are not going to equal to each other. Surface area of the short cylinder is going to be more than the surface area of the spherical particle, because the equivalent diameter or nominal diameter of the short cylinder is more than its original diameter. So, that is the reason the surface area of a short cylinder is going to be more than a surface area of the spherical particle, provided their volumes are equal, that is the volume of particle, spherical particle, and volume of short cylinders are equal to each other. Then sphericity, now we have 6 Vp by dp Sp, you substitute Vp, dp, Sp etc. here, then you get this as 0.874. So, short cylinders with L is equals to d, sphericity is 0.874. Similarly, if you take a short cubes with L is equals to d, or the size of the cube is equals to d, then volume of the cube is d cube, surface area of the cube is 6 d square, because 6 faces are there, each face is having d square area. So, 6 d square is the surface area of the particle, and then the nominal diameter, the d cube should be equated to the pi dp cube by 6, d cube is equals to pi dp cube by 6. So, from here what you get, dp is equals to 1.2407 d. This is again the reason, as we mentioned in one of the previous slides. If you take two material, one is a sphere, another one is a cube, but of the same volume, their volume is same. Despite the volume is being same, the surface area of the cube is going to be more compared to the surface area of the sphere, because of this reason, that the equivalent diameter of the cube is more than its original size, more than D is its original size, but now equivalent diameter is 1.2407, 0.24 times more than its original size, right. So, that is the reason the surface area of the cube is going to be higher compared to the surface area of the sphere of equal volume. Then sphericity pi s is 6 Vp by dp sp. When you substitute here Vp is d cube, sp is 6 d square, dp is 1.2407 d, and then do calculation. Sphericity is 0.806. For short cubes it is 0.806. Now likewise, if you take a hemisphere of size d, volume of the hemispherical particle Vp is 2 pi r cube by 3. In terms of d, if you write, it is pi d cube by 12. Then surface area of particles, hemispherical particle is 3 pi r square. In terms of d, it is 3 pi d square by 4. So, its equivalent diameter, how to find out? The volume of this hemispherical particle, if you equate to the volume of a spherical particle of size dp, that is pi dp cube by 6, then you get the equivalent diameter, that is pi d cube by 12 should be equated to the pi dp cube by 6, and then from here equivalent diameter dp you get it as 0.7937 d. Now here the equivalent diameter of the hemisphere is the smaller than its original size d, it is 0.7937 d. That is the reason if you take a spherical particle, if you take a hemispherical particle of equal volume each other, that is if you take a spherical particle same as the volume of a hemispherical particle, then the surface area of the hemispherical particle is going to be smaller than the surface area of the spherical particle, because the equivalent diameter of the hemispherical particle is less than its original size. So, now the sphericity, likewise if you get pi s is equals to 6 Vp by dp sp, when you substitute Vp dp sp here and then simplify, you get 0.840 as the sphericity for hemispherical particles. Likewise, for any kind of particle you can find out the volume of the particle, surface area of the particle, you can find out the nominal equivalent diameter of the particle. So, then you can find out the sphericity. So, some materials that we have done, spheres we have done here, short cylinders we have done, short cubes we have done, hemisphere we have done, tetrahedron also volume of the particle is given, surface area of the particle is given, dp you can calculate it as 0.6083 s. So, sphericity is going to be 0.671. Similarly, octahedron also of this particular size s. So, Vp, Sp are given, one can calculate the dp, one can calculate the sphericity as 0.846. Likewise, you can do for any other kind of material also. Let us say if you have a rectangular prism of size A by B by C, then what is the surface area of that particle, rectangular prism particle? It is going to be 2AB plus 2BC plus 2CA. What is the volume of that particle? It is A multiplied by B multiplied by C, right. Now, if you take this B is equals to A and C is equals to 2A, then what should be the surface area? It is going to be 10A square, and then what should be the volume? It is going to be 2A cube, right. So, under these conditions, if you equate this 2A cube to pi dp cube by 6, you are going to get a nominal equivalent diameter of this particle as 1.56311 A. And then sphericity is going to be Vp is 2A cube, dp is 1.56311 A, and Sp is 10A square. When you substitute these things, you get sphericity is 0.767. Let us say if B is equals to 2A and then C is also equals to 2A, then sphericity is not going to change much, it is going to be 0.761 only. Now, if you have a B is equals to 2A and then C is equals to 3A, then again it is slightly decreased 0.725. Similarly, if the short cylinders, this we have done L is equals to D, then it is 0.874. If L is equals to 1.5 D, then it is going to be 0.86. You can calculate and get it this one also. If L is going to be 5 times the D, then it is going to be 0.691. This sphericity is going to be 0.691. Similarly, if you take L is equals to 10 times the D, then sphericity is going to be 581. So, as the size of the cylinder increasing, the length of the cylinder is increasing, keeping the diameter same, the sphericity is decreasing. That is what we can see here from this table. So, let us say we take a Rashing rings. Rashing rings are kind of hemispherical cylindrical particles. You can take something like this. So, diameter, outer diameter is d naught, the inner diameter is di, and then this, let us say, height is L. So, this is a kind of a hollow kind of cylinder. So, this is a solid structure, this is all, and then in between a kind of hollow structure is there. They are used as a kind of a very good packing material in most of the chemical engineering applications. So, for this, what is going to be the sphericity, that also we can calculate. So, here what is the inner surface area of, that is the because now it is hollow cylinder, hollow short cylinder kind of thing we can take. We can take L is equals to d naught, L is equals to d naught we can take, and then di we can take d naught by 2, right. So, the inner surface area or the surface area of the inner portion, the hollow portion, that is pi d I L, and then outer surface area is pi d naught L, right. Similarly, base surface area, that is going to be the pi d naught square by 4 minus pi di square by 4, whatever this, the base surface area is this one only this fraction. So, the outer circle area whatever is there, that minus the inner circle area, if you do that, you are going to get the base surface area, and then it is 2 times 2 sides. Here also the same thing is there, here also it is going to be same thing, right. So, it should be multiplied by 2. So, the total surface area is going to be the inner surface area pi d I L plus outer surface area pi d naught L plus 2 base surface areas, the bottom one and top one. So, 2 pi d naught square by 4 minus pi di square by 4. If you substitute L is equals to d naught and di is equals to d naught by 2, you are going to get this one as 1.875 pi d naught square. Similarly, volume of the particle, this Rashing ring is the volume of the outer cylindrical object and minus inner cylindrical surface, whatever the volumes are there, that if you subtract, so you will get the volume of the entire ring, that is pi d naught square L by 4 minus pi di square L by 4. When you do this, L is equals to d naught and then di is equals to d naught by 2, you are going to get this one as 0.1875 pi d naught cube. This volume of the particle, if you equate to the volume of spherical particle pi d cube by 6, or equate to the spherical particle volume whose size is dp. So, then you will get dp, that nominal diameter. So, pi dp cube by 6 is equals to 0.1875 pi d naught cube. So, dp nominal size is almost close to the d naught, that is 1.04 d naught. Then sphericity, we have 6 Vp by dp Sp. When you substitute this dp Vp Sp here and then simplify, you get sphericity of this Rashing rings is close to 0.577. So, this is how we can take any shape of the particle and then calculate the nominal diameter or equivalent diameter. In addition to that one, we can also calculate the sphericity, that is, that sphericity represented the shape of the particle. So, there are some alternative methods for this sphericity also, that we can see from the definition. Sphericity we can say as a surface area of a sphere of the same volume as the particle divided by the actual surface area of the particle. That way also we can see the sphericity. When we do this one, we can have a kind of slightly different approach to get this one. Let us say you have the surface area of the sphere as 4 pi r square. Now, you do the cube both sides. So, surface S spherical surface area of the spherical particle whole cube is equals to 4 pi r square whole cube. Now, what you do here, you take 4 pi common. So, then you have 4 pi into 4 pi r cube whole square, this is how you can write the same thing. Now, here what you do, you multiply and divide by 9. So, then you have 4 pi into 3 square divided by 4 pi r cube by 3 whole square. So, this 9 into 4 36 pi, and then 4 pi r cube by 3 is nothing but the volume of a spherical particle of size r, that is what we get 36 pi v spherical whole square, right. So, you do the cube root both sides, then you have the S spherical is equals to 36 pi v spherical square whole power 1 by 3. If you expand this one, you can write it as 6 power 2 by 3 pi power 1 by 3 v spherical power 2 by 3. Now, this 6 and then 6 this v spherical you can combine because powers are same. So, you have pi power 1 by 3, 6 v spherical power 2 by 3 is equals to pi power 1 by 3, 6. Now, what we have these definitions, the nominal diameter, the definitions, and the volume of the particle should be same as a kind of a spherical particle of size dp, or you should select a kind of spherical particle whose size is dp, but its volume is same as the kind of particle volume. So, the spherical volume V S spherical should be equals to Vp, that is the particle volume. That means, from here pi s is equals to S spherical divided by Sp, that is the surface area of the spherical particle divided by the surface area of the particle whose volumes are same, whose volumes of the spherical particle and then particle, irregular particle, whatever for which we are measuring sphericity, their volumes are same. So, then their surface area ratio is going to give us the sphericity. So, S spherical particle we obtained it as pi 1 pi cube root of pi 6 Vp power 2 by 3 Sp. Now, Vp Sp you calculate for a given particle, just substitute here, you get the pi s. Only thing that we just bypass the calculation of the nominal size of the particle by doing this alternative method, otherwise it is the same thing as the previously. So, example like spherical particle sphere, if you take Vp is going to be 4 by 3 pi r cube and then Sp is going to be 4 pi r square. This Vp Sp if you substitute here, so you get sphericity as 1, this same as previous results. If you take short cylinder cell is equals to 2r, then Vp is 2 pi r cube or pi r square L, and then Sp is 6 pi r square r 2 pi r L plus r. So, these things if you substitute here in pi s definition, you get 0.873, that is the same as we have whatever the value we got previously. So, this is how we can get for any material the sphericity of any regular or regular material. Then the particle density, right. Depending on how the total volume is measured, different definitions of particle density can be possible, right, because in general the particles may be having the flaws, cracks, hollow structure, etc., those kind of things may be there. So, how you measure the total volume based on that one, whether you are including when in your volume calculation, when you calculate the volume of the particle, if you are including these flaws, cracks or porous structures, etc., or not, those kind of thing is going to make a kind of different volume measurement. So, different since you have a different volume measurement for the same mass of the particle, you are going to get a different density. So, depending on how the total volume is measured, different definitions of particle density can be possible. They are like true particle density, apparent particle density, and then effective particle density. This is why we have, because particles in general contains cracks, flaws, hollows, closed pores, open pores, etc. possible. That is the reason all three types of definitions are possible. True density represents the mass of particle divided by its volume excluding the open and closed pores. That is the only you take the effective volume, we do not take the cracks, flaws, etc. So, those volumes you subtract. So, that is the reason the density whatever you get, that is the true density, and it is nothing but the same as the bulk material density, that is the density of the material from which these particles are made up of. These particle densities we are measuring for the particles, not the bulk material. You after crushing, you have the irregular shape particles. So, size of the particle measurements that we have already seen, shape of the particle how to represent that we have seen. So, how to represent, how to get the true density of those particles. It is not necessary that it is going to be same as a kind of bulk density or the density of the bulk material from which we have got the particulate material, crushed material, right. So, if you are not going to consider, if you are excluding those cracks, pores, etc. within the particles whatever are there, if you are excluding them from their volume, then whatever the density that you are going to get, that is the true density, and it is same as the bulk density of the material from which the particulate material we have got, and then this is the same as the standard density that you get for pure chemicals in general in standard textbooks. But if you exclude only open pores, right, if you from the total volume of the particle, if you subtract the volume of the open pores alone, not the other closed pores etc., then whatever the density that you get the apparent density, right. But if you include the both density both volumes, that is open and closed pores also, you include in the that is volume of the open pores as well as the closed pores of the particles also, if you include in the volume of the particles, then whatever the density mass by volume that you get, that is going to be effective density. Apparent density one can measure by gas liquid displacement methods such as liquid or air pycnometry. Okay. So, effective density is important in applications involving flow around particles like in fluidation, sedimentation, flow through packed beds etc. And then all three densities are going to be different in general from the bulk density of powder or particulate material. The bulk density includes the voids between the particles in the measured volume also. Whatever these true density, apparent density, effective density that we have seen, they are for the individual single particle. But if you take the particulate powder material of such small particles, so there is a interstitial spaces also there. So, that volume is also there. That is the reason this is going to be different also from the application point of view. The bulk density includes the voids between the particles in the measured volume of the sample that we have taken, and there are a kind of pycnometries are available which can be used for measuring the density, because these are going to be important one, because measuring the mass of the particles accurately is possible, but for such kind of irregular particles and then where there is a kind of pores etc. are there, measuring their volume is going to be very tough, is going to be very difficult, especially for irregular shape particles, and then if there are voids between them, right. For such cases pycnometry can be used. So, apparent particle density or true density, that is if the particles have no closed pores, then the true density or apparent density are the same thing. So, they can be measured by the fluid displacement method by pycnometry, right. So, in the pycnometric in general liquid or fluids, liquid or gases can be used, and then gas is in general air, and then particles should not be dissolved in the liquid. The selection for this pycnometry, whatever the liquid that we are going to select, that should be such a way that in that liquid this particle should not be dissolving, should not be reacting, should not be corrosive kind of thing. Liquid should not be corrosive in the case of metallic particles. So, in the liquid pycnometry, what we do, liquid pycnometry can be used to determine the particle density of fine and coarse materials depending on the volume of pycnometric bottles used in general. For powders, a pycnometric bottle of 50 ml volume is sufficient enough, but for coarse particles larger calibrated containers are needed to be used. Particle density is the net weight of dry powder divided by the net volume of the powder, and then when you use the liquid pycnometry, this you can get rho as rho s is equals to ms minus m naught rho divided by ml minus m naught minus msl minus ms, where ms is the weight of the bottle filled with the powder, then m naught is the weight of the empty bottle that used for these measurements, and then ml is the weight of the bottle filled with only liquid, and then msl is the weight of the bottle filled with both powder and liquid. So, using this principle, so we can find out the density of the particles, okay, powder material. So, there are different other methods and then facilities experimental methods available for measuring this particle density, but we are not going to consider anyway them. So, the material presented in this particular lecture have been taken from these reference books, primarily McCabe and Smith, Ortega Rivas, Carlson and Richardson second volume, Giancopoulos, Brown et al., and then Badger and Banchero. Thank you.